the fathers ate sour grapes, and now the teeth which is suffering is not of the fathers who ate those sour grapes, but of the children,
What is it, though, about the M23 that makes them so well equipped to be able to hold on to a war, or even a civil war for that matter, for so long? Who's pumping them?
Well, give it a proper historical perspective. In 2021, possibly maybe 2022, I don't remember very well, President Tshisekedi had a deal with President Museveni of deploying Ugandan troops in Congo and the construction of roads from Uganda into DRC. They also made a deal with Burundi to deploy troops in South Kivu, and Rwanda was not included. And the leadership in Rwanda was annoyed. And it is on record. President Kagame says, I have not been invited in Congo. We shall go there uninvited. And when he said we shall go there uninvited, that's when M23 started the war. Now, this notion of saying that Congo has not been collaborating is not completely true. Let me give a historical perspective. During Joseph Kabila's time, Rwanda had joint operations with Congo. Those were called Chimya 1, Chimya 2, when Rwandan troops were allowed to go in Congo and hunt FDLR. They also had another operation called Umoja Wetu for very many years, and it killed people and dislocated people, and NGOs complained. In 2019, President Tshisekedi invited the Rwandan troops into Congo to go and kill the leadership of FDLR, and they did. Now, these things, when they say FDLR, how many times does Rwanda want to be allowed to go into Congo? I'm giving you all those incidences when they went there in Congo and on the invitation and permission of the government of Congo. Mark you, at one point in time, Rwanda had the chief of the army of Congo was Rwandese for years. So what did he do? Now today he says FDLR. Why didn't you solve the problem that time? So all these things, FDLR does exist, and I can tell you, for Rwanda to have concern is legitimate. And for that is true. That is true, but you don't need, Rwanda doesn't need to have support of the government to do that. They do it and they sell them to international companies who are ready to pay money. But Rwanda's influence and possibly the impunity you see is based on other things. For example, going to Capo de Gallo and they secure French interests. Then the French interests are going to keep Rwanda's situation in Congo under wraps. Then the British, Rwanda makes a deal with the British to take some refugees from Britain to Rwanda. And when you do that, then Britain is going to keep quiet about it. Then you are going to have, let me say, the United States of America. Rwanda does certain actions which possibly Americans feel helps them in let me say, Central African Republic, where Rwanda is deployed and the Russians are deployed in there, and then definitely the Rwandans are there, and maybe they talk to the Americans for whatever reason. So these things go on like that. But Rwanda has been taking Congolese resources really for a long time.
Was it even during your 10 years Chief of Staff? How did you guys do it?
Yeah.
How did you do it during your time as the Chief of Staff?
So it's not the soldiers who do it. Mm-hmm. It is the civilian Rwandan companies, Crystal Ventures and others who do it. What the soldiers do is that for them, they just capture the area, and no soldier in Rwanda, by the way, they are very disciplined soldiers. The Rwandan soldiers are very disciplined, very well trained, and extremely professional. They don't go into mining, never. It is the civilian companies who are under the ruling party, the RPF, who do the mining, who do the selling, and the soldiers are not involved at all.
But they play a role, though, in terms of the security.
Absolutely.
Yes.
They play safe passage. They do escort those things they escort for them. Yeah, that's what they do.
Good morning, Africans. I hope you're doing fine where you are, and if you ain't doing fine, please do fine where you are. Now, they say that don't do wrong to people, and have peace with all men. That is what religious text tells us. That is what even the law of the land tells us, you know. And so by starting this video, I want us to start by this verse. Jeremiah chapter 31, verse 39. This is what it says. In those days they shall say no more. The fathers have eaten sour grapes, and the children's teeth are set on edge. Someone might have wronged someone else in the past, but you know, nature always finds a way to balance itself. You know, it's a karmic law, finding way to balance itself. You do wrong, you get results here and here on earth. And so the parents ate sour grapes. The one who is paying is now the children. The same thing I'm telling you right now is the same thing which is likened with the situation that is happening in DRC and Rwanda. You know, Rwanda is a small country as compared to DRC, but it's creating so much tension in that country. And remember what I told you. The parents ate sour grapes, and now the children's teeth are set on edge. You know, there's a rebellion that was taking place during the conquest of the Berlin Conference. No, I think I went further. I went further a lot. Remember, in 1860 something, the Europeans were having fights among themselves in Africa. And so to wipe away the shame, not to show us Africans that these people can bleed, because we thought these people are supreme beings, they can't bleed. They went and held a conference in Germany, Berlin. And this conference was held by a man who was by then a chancellor. His name was Otto von Bismarck. And one thing stands very much interesting that affects Africans up to date. This is what they called sphere of influence. Sphere of influence is a categorical term that was used in the context of the Berlin Conference to mean that this is my territory. So they didn't want to name the term territory. I think they were trying to shut off their consciousness. So they called it sphere of influence. Any country that had shown, any European country that had shown a sphere of influence or an interest in a particular area, they would call that a sphere of influence. And no any other European countries were supposed to show interest in that country as well. But of course we had some exceptions. We had exceptions with Egypt. We also had exceptions with Morocco. How many times have the British fought the French in Egypt, and how many times have they fought in Morocco at a place called Fez, the Battle of Fez? Not so many people know about this, but because it's not told, it's not taught, you know. Now, the Berlin Conference came, and Britain took a huge part of Africa. Germany took a small part, and then we had French. French took mostly the northern part of Africa and some sections of West Africa. And then we have the central sides of Africa. The central side was taken by the people who also speak French, but they were from a country called Belgium, you know. Now, Belgium had just taken, like, a single country, just one country, a country that was so huge, you know. Back then, it was not called DRC. It was called the Belgian Congo. You understand? The Belgian Congo belonged to Belgium. And so Belgium sent a representative to come and corner, to come and safeguard, you know, do whatever he wants to this land. And this man's name was Leopold. Leopold was, he was not really a good man, you know. He shed a lot of African blood. And so Belgium took control of the DRC, and Belgium took control of the Congo Free State, or let me say Congo Brazzaville, because these countries were once one piece of land. The Second World War came, and Germany lost. Rwanda and Burundi were just a single country. We didn't have Rwanda and Burundi back then. Rwanda and Burundi were sections of Tanzania. You get it? And so when the Germans lost in the Second World War, what happened is that the Belgium Congo and some other European countries such as Britain took cover. They took some sections of the countries that were being colonized by Germany. For example, the British took control over Tanzania. You know, the Belgians took control over Rwanda and Burundi. You know, again after the UN Charter. Back then it was called the League of Nations. There's a charter that was developed. No, it was called the UN because the League of Nations failed after the First World War. Now the UN, there was a charter that disagreed with the colonization of these people in Africa, you know. So there's a charter that forced them to get away from Congo. You know, forced these white people to get away from the entire Africa. There is some amendments that were done, I believe, and we saw Rwanda and Burundi become countries. Rwanda is just like, it's a very, very small country, very, very small. Kenya is like 50 times bigger than Rwanda and Burundi. So these small countries were also members of the Belgium Congo. If you go to some parts of Rwanda, they speak French. If you go to some parts of Burundi, they speak French. This is an influence of the Belgians. The Belgians were speaking a dialect of French. So when they left, these two countries also became independent on their own.
Many have criticized the government, saying the soldiers are not adequately trained and fully equipped to take on a fight against the M23 rebels. The troops are in the country as part of a SADC mission. To talk to us more about the developments in the DRC, I am now joined exclusively by the former Rwanda Army Chief of Staff, Lieutenant General Kayumba Nyamwasa, who was also the Chief of Intelligence and former Ambassador of Rwanda to India. Lieutenant General, thank you so much for making time for us this morning.
My greatest pleasure, Adrian. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you so much again for making time for us. I want to start off here. If we consider that since 1959, Rwanda has had refugees, and yourself being born outside of your home country, what will it take for us to get to peace in the Great Lakes region, Rwanda, the DRC, as well as Burundi?
Well, I think what takes is dialogue, and for all parties to be involved in dialogue in trying to solve a situation in the Eastern Congo, but also in the region. Because when you look at the Congo situation, where Rwanda has been involved for the last 30 years. One of the longest wars, maybe like the European wars of the Westphalia wars, are the ones which spent 30 years. Since 1996, Rwanda has been involved in the DRC with Mobutu, with Desire Kabila, with Joseph Kabila, and now with Tshisekedi. We have also had very difficult relationships with Uganda. Fighting in Kisangani, closing of the borders, and those kind of things. Our relationship with Tanzania were not even better. In 2013, when President Kikwete and President Kagame had fraught relationships. With the Burundi, since 2015, Rwanda and the Burundi don't sit eye to eye. We are now talking about the war in DRC. Maybe the next war is going to be now something to do with Burundi. Because even yesterday, the president of Burundi declared that he's going to fight Rwanda. Now, if you want a solution, it must be comprehensive. People talk about the Tutsi flight in Congo. It's true, and it's a fact. That one I don't dispute at all. People talk about the Rwandan genocide. It's a fact, it took place. But if you're going to solve the problem of the region, you're not going to solve the problem of the Tutsis by declaring war on other people and think you're going to solve the problem of the Tutsis and even solve the problem of the genocide. If you look at the DRC, we talk about 100,000 Tutsis who could have run out of Congo into Rwanda. But how many millions of other tribes, the Barega, the Bahunde, the Bahutu in Congo, the Nande, all those have been running away for the last 30 years. Now, suppose you were to go in there and liquidate the FDLR. How are you going to do it? You only be able to do it when you are fighting the FDLR in Congo. So even today, remove M23 and you go in now to fight the FDLR. It means again, that is another war that's going to make people again displaced. So what is the solution? The solution is, first of all, Congo to talk to the M23. Rwanda to talk to its adversaries, because Rwanda has got a lot of adversaries. Even in this region alone, in South Africa, in Malawi, in Zimbabwe, in Mozambique, the majority of the refugees are Rwandese. But when you talk to Rwanda, they just indicate as if there is no problem in Rwanda. Why are these people still in exile? It's simply because they don't feel safe. And if they support the FDLR, why do they support the FDLR?
So what would you say has made peace elusive for the region, specifically also looking at the role of Rwanda?
Absolutely. If you don't do that, if you don't look at even if today you solve the problem of the M23, the Rwandan situation will remain, because the refugees who are in Mozambique, in Malawi, in Zimbabwe, in Zambia, in Uganda, they won't disappear, they will not disappear. They'll be everywhere. So you cannot therefore say, if I solve the problem of the FDLR, rather the problem of M23, the problem is solved. The FDLR situation is going to remain. So what is the solution that is being given? Liquidate and eliminate the FDLR. What does it mean? Kill them. How can the governments meet and they're talking about liquidation of citizens of a country? Now they talk about genocide. It took place. I was there. I'm one of those who helped in stopping the genocide, and I'm Tutsi. So this is something I'm talking from the position of understanding. But since that time, has Rwanda ever sat to discuss with the people it ever defeated? No.
Yeah. Just quickly on the FDLR,
yes.
Quite recently we had a press briefing with our Minister of Defense, the Deputy Minister of Defense, as well as our International Relations Minister.
Yeah.
And the Minister was then explaining, this is now the Defense Minister, Enji Muteka, explaining what happened when there was the firing of shots, as she describes it, over their heads in the Sake region. She then says that it then emerged that the shots were actually fired from the DRC into Rwanda, and Rwanda then had to retaliate. Is that your understanding of what is going on here as well? That it is the FDLR that are also being seen by Rwanda as aggressors who are based in the DRC with the backing of President Felix Tshisekedi?
I have no reason to believe that Rwanda should not be concerned about the FDLR. Any country that has got people, the enemies armed, has to be concerned. But how do you solve it? You solve it by talking to those people and looking at their concerns. Let me tell you, Adrian, if you have got elections in Rwanda and the president allocates himself 99.9%, how do you expect...
Allocates himself? He says it's a democratic process.
Well, I'm telling you now, 99.9%. And you have been in power for the last 30 years. Even Mandela, if he was here, if he was still alive, I don't think he would be electing 99.9%. So you must also look at why are these people oppose the government of Rwanda. And when I talk about the refugees, don't talk about the people who are in Congo, the FDLR only. How about the refugees in these countries I've told you? In Malawi, in Zimbabwe, in Zambia, in Mozambique, in Europe, everywhere. And by the way, including the survivors of genocide. When I'm talking about the refugees who are now the Rwandan refugees, it includes survivors of genocide. It includes Tutsi like me who fought for the regime which is in power. Now, if you don't address that, and you think you are not going to address the situation of the M23, it's half a measure. Another thing is, how are you going to solve the problem of the region between Rwanda and other governments? If Burundi is saying what they are saying, if they are crossing borders with Uganda, so what happens? Maybe the war is going to shift from Congo to Burundi. And exactly as we speak now, the M23 seems to be moving to take Bukavu. If we take Bukavu, it means you're in South Kivu and in the plain of Rutsizi. In the plain of Rutsizi, that means you are going to have a link between the M23 and the Red Tabara who are fighting the government of Burundi. So what you have in the North Kivu is likely going to shift into South Kivu. So the issue is the issue of leadership. When we talk about political will, you cannot only talk about the political will of President Tshisekedi, and you don't talk about the political will of President Kagame. It must go hand in hand. It must be in tandem. And don't pretend that the problems we see in Congo are not the problems that exist in Rwanda. Because Rwanda has a similar number of refugees than Congo, if not more. I've told you where they are. Yeah. You can check.
The M23, as we just told our viewers now, we have a 14th soldier now, South African soldier, who has died since in the past week, just over a week now, since this incident first happened in Sake. What is it, though, about the M23 that makes them so well equipped to be able to hold on to a war, or even a civil war for that matter, for so long? Who's pumping them?
Well, give it a proper historical perspective. In 2021, possibly maybe 2022, I don't remember very well, President Tshisekedi had a deal with President Museveni of deploying Ugandan troops in Congo and the construction of roads from Uganda into DRC. They also made a deal with Burundi to deploy troops in South Kivu, and Rwanda was not included. And the leadership in Rwanda was annoyed. And it is on record. President Kagame says, I have not been invited in Congo. We shall go there uninvited. And when he said we shall go there uninvited, that's when M23 started the war. Now, this notion of saying that Congo has not been collaborating is not completely true. Let me give a historical perspective. During Joseph Kabila's time, Rwanda had joint operations with the Congo. Those were called Chimya 1, Chimya 2, when Rwandan troops were allowed to go in Congo and hunt FDLR. They also had another operation called Umoja Wetu for very many years, and it killed people and dislocated people, and NGOs complained. In 2019, President Tshisekedi invited the Rwandan troops into Congo to go and kill the leadership of FDLR, and they did. Now, these things, when they say FDLR, how many times does Rwanda want to be allowed to go into Congo? I'm giving you all those incidences when they went there in Congo and on the invitation and permission of the government of Congo. Mark you, at one point in time, Rwanda had the chief of the army of Congo was Rwandese for years. So what did he do? Now today he says FDLR. Why didn't you solve the problem that time? So all these things, FDLR does exist, and I can tell you, for Rwanda to have concern is legitimate. And for having think about the Tutsis is legitimate. But what about other tribes? You don't go to save one ethnicity and then you eliminate 10 ethnicities and finish them.
The United Nations expert report is saying that the M23 is being supported by the Rwandan Defense Force. Do you know about this?
Well, yes, I know about it. It's not the first group that we supported.
That you supported as the Rwanda Defense Force?
It's an open secret. I don't know why even people want to hide about that.
Because the Rwanda government is denying that?
Well, you know, the Rwandan armed forces toppled Mobutu. And at the beginning, we denied. And let me tell you, in 1996, I thought it was a legitimate cause. Because at that time, Rwanda was threatened, and they had to defend themselves. But after overthrowing Mobutu and returning of the refugees, we should have changed our course. It should have been Rwanda talking to the DRC on how we can be able to live together. Number two, there is a misconception that M23 is a Banyamulenge thing. That's not true. The Banyamulenge thing is a long time ago. It ended in 2002, actually 1998, when General Kabarebe left Kinshasa. That is the end. The Banyamulenge issue got finished. For your information, during Kabila's time, Azarias Ruberwa, who is a Munyamulenge, was the vice president. Nyarugabo, who is a Munyamulenge, was the deputy speaker in the government. General Malik was the deputy army commander. Bisengimana was the head of the police. There are so many, even today, there are a lot of Munyamulenge who are brigade commanders, regional commanders, battalion commanders, including General Masunzu, who has just been appointed recently as a zonal commander, and General Gasita, who has been appointed recently. They even have a minister Munyamurenje in government. The Minister of Infrastructure in Congo is a Munyamurenje. So when people here in South Africa talk about Munyamurenje, it's a misconception, it's a lie, it's not true. The issue of Munyamurenje is different from M23. So people are confusing these things. And with the, definitely, when they talk about the Sun City, the Sun City agreement, well, we participated in that with some of the colleagues I've seen talking about it. But at that time, who were involved? It was the RCD that was mainly a Tutsi group. There was RCD Kisangani of Wamba Dia Wamba. Then there was Bemba, MLC. All those became vice presidents to Kabila. And when they became vice presidents to Kabila, which agreement did Kabila violate when he allowed them in the government? And these people have remained there. Bemba is in Kinshasa now, he's a minister. And all these people I've told you are in the government. But what happened is there were some unresolved issues of resources and other things. And that's why you have got CNDP eventually, M23 of 2012, and this M23. This has nothing to do with the Tutsis. It has nothing to do with the differences between governments, because the relationship between Tshisekedi and Kagame between 2018 and 2021 was the most cordial. Check how many times did Tshisekedi go to Kigali. And even on the burial of Tshisekedi's father, Kagame was there. So what happened there in between? Where was the FDLR then at that time? When they were fraternizing like that, where was the FDLR? And what about the Tutsis at that time? Who are then they talk about who are in Rwanda? Where were they when Kagame was fraternizing with Tshisekedi? The issue is different. It's not political. It's not social. It's not about the plight of the people. It's about control of the Congo. And like I told you, when Uganda went in there, Burundi went in there, Rwanda was not in there, the Rwandans thought they are being isolated. But Congo is a sovereign country. They can invite whom they want, and they may disinvite whom they don't want. At that time, they didn't invite Rwanda. So Rwanda should have tried to talk to Congo and see how they could be invited if need be. But because they thought they can use their strengths, that's what they did.
So control of the Congo means control of the mineral wealth of the nation?
Mainly.
Mainly.
And to do that, you need to control the politics.
Yeah. So who are the actors that are behind all of this? Who are the people that are pulling the strings?
Well, I would say to a very great extent, it has really been Rwanda, to a very great extent. Because all those people I've mentioned...
But is it Rwanda acting on its own? Is it being propped up by other nations, foreign nations?
I don't think so. But I think in a way, for other reasons, Rwanda has done other things and can be tolerated. Not that they want them to take Congo for their own benefits, because they can do it without them. They can still be able to do it without them. And I think Tshisekedi would also don't mind to work maybe with those other foreign forces we are saying. I never saw when I was there, and even today, that another government is pushing Rwanda to be able to do that. I hear people say it could be possible now, but at that time I never saw that kind of situation.
Yeah, and the reason that I asked this question as well is we shared with our listeners, our viewers during the Week of Business Day report. Yeah. This is in relation to a report from the United Nations, a midterm report by a group of experts that said that the M23 forces in April 2024 managed to seize Rubaya, including its mineral production. And based on that, a road was also built that would lead into Rwanda. And once the minerals then get into Rwanda, they would be certified as minerals from Rwanda. Yeah. And that's a point that has been stressed by the ambassador of Rwanda, the ambassador of the DRC to the United Nations. Amongst the calls that she's making as well is that there should be an embargo on minerals being sold from Rwanda because those are minerals that are actually coming illegally from the DRC.
That is true. That is true, but you don't need, Rwanda doesn't need to have support of the government to do that. They do it and they sell them to international companies who are ready to pay money. But Rwanda's influence and possibly the impunity you see is based on other things. For example, going to Capo de Gallo and they secure French interests. Then the French interests are going to keep Rwanda situation in Congo under wraps. Then the British, Rwanda makes a deal with the British to take some refugees from Britain to Rwanda. And when you do that, then Britain is going to keep quiet about it. Then you are going to have, let me say, the United States of America. Rwanda does certain actions which possibly Americans feel helps them in let me say, Central African Republic, where Rwanda is deployed and the Russians are deployed in there, and then definitely the Rwandans are there, and maybe they talk to the Americans for whatever reason. So these things go on like that. But Rwanda has been taking Congolese resources really for a long time.
Was it even during your 10 years Chief of Staff?
Yeah,
How did you guys do it?
Yeah.
How did you do it during your time as the Chief of Staff?
So it's not the soldiers who do it.
Mm-hmm.
It is the civilian Rwandan companies, Crystal Ventures and others who do it. What the soldiers do is that for them, they just capture the area, and no soldier in Rwanda, by the way, they are very disciplined soldiers. The Rwandan soldiers are very disciplined, very well trained, and extremely professional. They don't go into mining, never. It is the civilian companies who are under the ruling party, the RPF, who do the mining, who do the selling, and the soldiers are not involved at all.
But they play a role, though, in terms of the security.
Absolutely.
Yes.
They play safe passage. They do escort those things, they escort for them. Yeah, that's they do.
I will quickly want to bring you in on the SADC meeting and the resolution that was made there. Part of the resolution is to mandate the SADC organ Troika of Defense and Security Cooperation to engage all state and non-state parties to the conflict to a ceasefire process to protect the lives and facilities and smooth flow of humanitarian support. But there's also then the call to have the defense ministers, chiefs of defense and troops contributing to the countries, to the DRC, to ensure that the SAMI DRC troops are safe and facilitate immediate repatriation of the deceased troops and so forth. Is this the right approach? And SADC is also saying, like the EAC had said, let's have a dual summit. Absolutely.
I agree. Engagement is the best thing to do. These issues are not going to be resolved by war. I've told you this war has been going on for the last 30 years. And simply because it has been held piecemeal. While we were discussing the issues of Congo and Rwanda, there has never been any discussion between the issues between Burundi and Rwanda. But even the Rwandese themselves, the Rwandese who are outside the country and the Rwandese and the government of Rwanda, that has never been done. Even if today, like I told you, we are going to solve the problem of the M23, the Rwandese opposition will always remain there, in Congo and everywhere. So when you talk about the meeting of ministers of defense, the chiefs, that's fine and that's good. It's the best way to go. Yeah. But then what are they going to address? If they are going to address only the M23, in 3-4 years, we shall have an M23 4 or 5.
And the President Museveni is saying as well, and I know that you say that it's not entirely true that the DRC doesn't want to participate, but he is saying that we will force President Tshisekedi to actually speak to the M23 and engage the M23, because that needs to happen. Yeah.
Well, they can force him to talk with M23 and even come with a piecemeal resolution, just like they did in 2002 and 2009 with CNDP, in 2013. But even when Tshisekedi is gone, if you have not solved the fundamental problem of the DRC, still there will be something else that's going to come. Yeah. So they must be able to look at some of these things. Forcing Tshisekedi is one thing. They don't need to force him anyway. I think you should accept to talk to them. But you should ask Rwanda to also talk to the people who are opposed to Rwanda, because there is no way it's going to have the M23 gone, and then you have Rwanda and these other people, again in Congo, displacing people, saying that they are looking for the FDLR. Otherwise, you're going to have a problem.
Lieutenant General, quick two questions.
Yes.
This is now on you as,
Yeah.
as the individual.
Yeah.
Is your life still under threat?
Well, you know, where I cannot be able to guarantee. I'm not hunting myself. Somebody else is hunting me. Maybe you should be able to answer the question and say they have stopped.
Okay, let me ask you this one. Do you still fear for your life?
Oh, a lot of Rwandese fear for their lives. That's why hundreds of thousands of Rwandese are in exile. So just like other people, even me, it's the same thing.
And you still believe that President Paul Kagame is behind it?
Because, you see, I'm not arranging anything. This is a court decision. The court here in South Africa ruled in Kagiso that I was targeted by the government of Rwanda. People were arrested, some confessed, and they were convicted to 12 years in prison. So this is not hypothetical, it's real. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so yeah, that's true.
Okay.
And my friend here was killed.
Patrick, yes.
Patrick Karegeya. And then even the court in Rwanda also ruled that the people who killed him came from Rwanda, sponsored by Rwanda, and they are actually now in Rwanda. Mm-hmm. And this is a court decision. It's not an allegation. It's a court decision. You may not believe me, but at least believe your courts.
Yeah, but that court decision also makes reference to the Spanish indictment.
Yeah.
The Spanish indictment then fall away, but now we understand that it has been revived again back in 2017. Mm-hmm. Have you heard anything from the Spanish as well? And what's your take on the allegations that you also played a key role in during the genocide and the killing of Spanish people?
No. Because that one has already been taken off. It has already been lost. Even the French case has already been ruled. I even have judgments talking about this thing that never happened. So that thing that no longer exists now.
That's no longer a case for you. Yeah, just quickly there's a statement that just came in actually. Rwanda rejects the summit accusations against the RDF. Rwanda rejects the accusations against the Rwanda Defense Force made in the statement by SADC. The RDF defends Rwanda's borders from threats and protection of civilians. It does not attack civilians. What's your take on that?
Well, you see, we are all soldiers. When you throw bombs and you throw grenades and all these kind of things, you don't know where they go. And particularly in a populated area like Eastern Congo. So you can't say we never attacked civilians, as if when you are throwing those bombs, you are even going to direct them where to go. And when people are in camps, are moving, all these kind of things. The fact of the matter is, you do certain things and you admit them. Several times I've seen President Kagame on TV admitting that they have got forces in Congo. On 2 occasions, he said, if our forces are in Congo, why should they not be there? So that's an exception, accepting. Number 2, they talk about defensive measures. Where? In Rwanda or in Congo? These defensive measures are in Congo. The Rwanda peace agreement between Rwanda and the DRC, which is supposed to be signed, talks about withdrawing of Rwandan troops. It can't be on Rwandan territory. It must be on Congolese territory. So when you are there and you are fighting, and there are people all over the place, you can't claim nobody dies. So are you telling me when you watch on the TV and you see hundreds of thousands of women, children running away, are they running away because somebody's throwing some balloons? They're not running away from balloons. They're not running away because somebody's giving them flowers. They're running away because they are certain because they are being killed. So for anybody to deploy troops in a country and people are displaced and we say, we don't do this, what do you do? When you throw bombs, when you see people running, what happens? We have seen civilian bodies lying down in Congo dead. We can't know who killed them. But the Rwandans cannot say that it's not us. It could be anybody who is involved in the war.
Yeah, and you don't think that the summit DRC should withdraw?
Well, that is a political military decision that can be taken by South Africa.
Okay.
But all I can say is, I think Nadir, when it was deployed, they thought they were going to fight a rebel movement. They never anticipated that they were going to fight a rebel movement and a government.
Okay. Do you know what? The former Rwandan Army Chief of Staff, Lieutenant General Kayumba Nyamwasa, who is also the former Chief of Intelligence, and at some point you were very, very good friends with President Paul Kagame.
Yeah.
That relationship, of course, has now broken down. But I want to ask you about this particular individual. Do you know Fulgens Kaishema?
Fulgens Kaishema. I've read in the papers.
You've read in the papers about him?
Yeah.
Because I saw there's the story around his extradition. You're not too sure about the role that he would have played during the genocide?
No, I wouldn't know. But even when I was in Rwanda, I think I used to read some articles, and I think even some of these things about Kaishema. And by the way, okay, go on.
No, continue.
And by the way, when they talk about Kaishema and the people who committed the genocide, it gives me the reason to tell you about even the FDLR, for example. Not a single person, by the way, in the FDLR was indicted by the International Criminal Tribunal in Arusha. Not a single one. Now, we come here and people are saying genocidaire. That's not entirely true. Why? 95% of the FDLR are in Rwanda. They're in the Rwandan army and the Rwandan reserve forces. And a lot of them are actually now fighting in Congo with the Rwandan army. Now, you don't become a genocidaire in Congo today when you cross to Rwanda and you become an angel. And by the way, I'm the one who started recruiting and integrating the FDLR when I was still there. And I like it. And I think the Rwandan government is doing very well integrating them. But you see, don't talk about integrating people and then say, I have to go and eliminate them. It's a big contradiction. You integrate, but then you say, when they are in Congo, I will go to eliminate them. But when they come here, they are very good people I can work with.
And from the Security Council side, do you think there's anything that can happen there outside of just the statements that are being issued?
I think they should be very clear to ask Rwanda to withdraw its troops from Congo.
Well, they did.
Directly. Well,
they did.
They say it, but then have they withdrawn?
Yeah, so what should happen after that?
The Security Council has members who are really very, very strong, who have not talked categorically to tell Rwanda to get out. And I know for sure there are probably 3 or 4 countries, if they said tomorrow, Kagame will withdraw. But they haven't talked.
From the P5?
Yeah. They have not talked categorically to have them withdraw. So they just, talk about in phrases, but without being categoric.
A final one is on the diplomatic relationship between South Africa as well as Rwanda. We see that it's now further strained with our president labeling the Rwandan Defense Force as a militia group, which has now somewhat, the statement has been edited. I don't know if that means a retraction, but what do you read into that?
Well, I think it could have been an oversight on or that's really a typing error or whatever, but I don't think President Ramaphosa meant that. But I think the reaction from the other side was very, very unfortunate and extremely undiplomatic, because I think it could have been done better. Thereafter, I saw a lot of interviews being carried here in South Africa from Rwanda, which, by the way, you can't do in Rwanda. The Rwandese can come and carry interviews on your radio stations and call your president what they want. But your person cannot talk in Rwanda and talk about possibly what I've talked here. And even when I leave this station here, check in the comments, you are going to see, they are going to call me all sorts of names, all those kind of things. So whatever the case may be, that statement and the diplomatic relations may be strained. And I believe when the South Africans and some in general deployed in Congo, they didn't think that they're going to have another country attacking them. They thought they are going to fight rebels, not knowing that they are going to fight rebels plus a country. I believe if they knew they were going to fight the rebels plus a country, the deployment would have been different.
Okay, then thank you so much for your time. Truly appreciate it.
My greatest.
Now, after carefully listening to the soldier, the former ambassador of Rwanda to India, he has such a hard, difficult, enigmatic name. But one thing I'll tell you is this man was once a very good friend to Paul Kagame, but now that's not the case, Be careful, be careful, be careful, be careful. Have good friends with you, have good friends. So, listening to the gentleman talk, and he's really exposed a lot of information. He's really exposed a lot of these people, so-called M23 rebel and the FDRR and these other forces, with how they are linked. You know, there is always a relationship between two fighting countries, which was once good and it turned sour. You know, for Rwanda, they were having some, you know, the Rwandan genocide. Some people who took part in it are now in Congolese government and are working over there, you know. And some people who also were fighting Congo are found in Rwanda, in the Rwandese government. You know, all this is just a problem of the Berlin Conference. Africans were not like the way we are right now. Africa was a single beautiful country. And that's why you see all these, the Tutsi in Rwanda and the Tutsi in Congo. There's a lot of confusion, you know. But after the establishment of the sovereign states under the Berlin Conference, after the UN also established that colonization has to end in the Congo, we saw the Belgians leave, and also we saw the creation of Rwanda and Burundi, two tiny countries, which is giving the country of Congo such a headache. You know, the country of Congo is infiltrated by these so-called M23 rebels. They took away Mobutu Sese Seko. They took away Desire Kabila, the father to Joseph Kabila, and now they are dealing with Felix Tshisekedi. You know, we just have to hope that it goes well with these people, because Congo has seen a lot of atrocities being done to it. Congo is the most developed country, is the most richest, is the richest country in the world in terms of natural resources. And the soldier has told us that, the former ambassador of Rwanda, he's in exile by the way, he has told us that the soldiers are disciplined, but you know, they come and conquer a place. After they conquer a place, they make way for those companies, for private companies actually, to come and loot minerals from Congo and bring it to Rwanda and label it made in Rwanda, whichever thing that shows it's coming from Rwanda falsely. And then from there, Rwanda sells this mineral to the international market with the label, you know, made in Rwanda. It's not a blood diamond, it's a clean one. It's not a blood cobalt, because there is a charter in UN that prohibits the buying and the trading of blood minerals. And so they Rwanda is some kind of a laundering company that launders the blood minerals and cleans it and then sells it to the rest of the world. Which they do this by exploiting people, by, you know, people die, throwing the bombs. Conquering a place is not easy. Conquering a place, blood has to be shed. And we say blood minerals because people are killed in the process of the extraction of these minerals, you know. I picked some key points from this gentleman, and one of them was the control of Congo means control of minerals in Congo. You know, these people are not just acting; they are not just playing around with pew pew. They are not doing that. They are here strategically. They know the potential of wealth that Congo holds. You know. And so they come over here and they loot a lot of minerals, and they, you know, they conquer a place like Goma, for instance. And now after conquering Goma, they themselves are not involved in the mining. Now private companies come and mine. After mining, they take it back to Congo. So whoever controls Congo controls the mineral, and he becomes the boss. The money they get from the minerals, they come back and they finance themselves in the military. You know, we want to conquer more. We want more of Congo. We want more minerals. We want to get richer. See, these people are forgetting that Congo is a sovereign state. Congo has to make his own decision without involving other people. Now, if Rwanda thinks of just coming to Congo anyhow and acting like it's toilet, you know, this is my toilet, I go anytime. You know, you don't need permission to enter your toilet. Now, Rwanda is taking DRC as their own toilet, or as an extra room for them. And all this is being done under the mandate of the chief of the armed forces. You know whom the chief of the armed forces is? Yes, Paul Kagame. If he says yes, it's yes. And if he says no, it's a no. You know, Rwanda should also understand that Congo is a sovereign country and has its own decisions to make. You know, remember the part where he said Rwanda was not invited to Congo to come and, protect the country during the construction of roads. There were some activities, economic activities, which were taking place in Congo. And Congo invited Rwanda, it invited Burundi, and it invited, who else? It invited Uganda. But it being a neighbor, it was not invited, made Kagame angry. And he said, you've not invited us, but we will get there by our own selves, Who is he to say such a thing? It's someone else's country. You don't just come in. It's their own country. They decide what to do with it. You don't decide for them. Rwanda actually is just a puppet. Rwanda is a puppet because sometimes these Western companies, they need minerals, but because they are held by the UN charters, they can't just get into Congo and take it. They need a proxy. They need a puppet. And now they use Rwanda as a puppet to mine the minerals, bring it to Rwanda, launder it, and then sell it. Rwanda is just a puppet for these Western companies, or the West, as told by the gentleman, And he also he really emphasized that dialogue is key to ending the war, dialogue, conversation, because war has not solved it. For 30 years, the war has been continuing for such a long time. Now, if one process is not working, why don't we trust and try another one? So for the gentleman, he says that dialogue might come in handy one time. And I believe that, dialogue should help in such a case, you understand? And also, he tells us that taking away Tshisekedi, exterminating him as they have exterminated the other president, or putting him into exile, will not solve the problem of the Congo. The fundamental problem of Congo should be solved peacefully. By taking him out won't help. There will still be war, even greater, continuing up to date. These countries in the Great Lakes have seen a lot of fights. They have seen a lot of bloodshed, Now, there's one thing which saddens me a lot. People are shouting, people are yelling about the countries of Palestine and the Gaza. But look at Congo. People are dying each day. People are crying, and the international community is just watching, The gentleman said that if the UN veto members speak and tell Kagame, pull back, he will pull back. But they have still not spoken categorically as told by the gentleman, I don't know, is it Africa? That is why they are taking too long to make their categorical speech. Is it Africa, or is it that some lives are equal, yes, but maybe some lives are equal more than others? Should it be that way? That's why they're not acting swiftly as they should be? I don't know. In 1994, there was a war that killed nearly 800,000 Rwandese. We had only 2 tribes in Rwanda. I told you Rwanda is a very small country. So we only had 2 tribes, the Hutus and the Tutsis. The president back then was a Hutu, and the minority was the Tutsi. You see, when you are living close to a boundary, close to a border, and there's a tribe over there, these tribes always seem to split themselves into 2. One in one country and another one in the other one. That is just how it is. Because without the boundaries, these people were moving up and down. They had no things to show that I am Rwandese, or rather I am a Congolese, or I am a Burundian. No. They would move up and down. So the 1994 genocide came. The president back then announced that the Tutsis were becoming a problem to their country, and genocide started. They were hunting down the Tutsis. So many of the Tutsis ran and left Rwanda and moved to Congo, DRC, you see. And one of these people who was Paul Kagame. Paul Kagame was one of those people who was a Tutsi. He is a Tutsi, by the way. So he ran away, and later on, these guys came back. Not all, but some of them came back, and they sought independence by a political party. I believe the political party was called Rwanda Patriotic Force, RPF, I think, or Rwanda Patriotic Party. I'm not certain, but it was Rwanda Patriotic something. Yeah. So remember, these people ran and went to DRC in 1994. And even before 1994, these people were moving up and down. So we have some elements of the Tutsis where? In DRC. And we have some elements of the Tutsis in their homeland, Rwanda. You see, during the harming of the Tutsis by the Hutu, it is believed that, I think maybe it was Laurent Desire Kabila, who was the second president, I believe. This man was supporting the Hutu to terminate the Tutsis. You get it? And so the Tutsis were having this kind of bitterness with the government of the DRC. And remember, Kagame is a Tutsi. He is one. This is according to the report I was studying the previous days. You know, he was studying this. And so I was studying this. And so what follows is that Kagame came back later on. And maybe I think 1994, 5 or 6, between the 2 years. 1994 is when it started. I think between 1995 and 1996, he came back, and they took position, and he became the president. The Hutu president, of course, who was exterminated by Kagame and his people. Yeah, you know, even Kagame was having a case at the ICC to come and say why he is responsible, or rather why he took part in the termination of their ex-president. You know, it was upon the law of the land and upon the African Constitution, or upon the ICC, whoever is to deliver justice, to act on that president. It was not to be left on the hands of the armed forces. You know, so I believe that Kagame is having some tensions with the president, with the country of Congo, because they took part in, you know, terminating their own people. Now, there is the rise of puppets. There is the rise of Western imperialism in Africa, neo-imperialism, I call it. You know, Africans are being debt-trapped, and they are told that if you want us to deliver you out of this trap, you need to give us this. You need to give us a section of your diamond. You need to give us a piece of your land for us to do this. In Kenya, we have these kinds of people. They are called the Batuk. You know, the British Army Training Unit, Kenya, the Batuk, somewhere in Nanyuki. So these people are coming here in pretense of, you know, doing military, but they have their own things that they are doing in the country. You know, they have some hidden agenda, you know, that they are doing. So when I said that Kagame, or rather when I said that the fathers ate the sour grapes, but now it is the teeth of the children which are on the edge, I'm referring to the sins that was done by Laurent Desire Kabila to the people of Congo, to the people of Rwanda and the Tutsi problem, because they were somehow connected. Now what's happening now, it's a payback. Rwanda is paying back, you know. Of course, two wrongs don't make a right. It has never made any sense when two wrongs make a right. No, we can't say, no, we can't. It can never make sense. Because you poke my eye, I poke your eye, and then another person pokes another person's eye. If we continue like this, the whole world becomes blind. Yeah, an eye for an eye makes the world blind, not justice. Yeah, so Kagame has many reasons why he is doing this. You know, first might be revenge. The second one might be he might be in the pockets of his Western masters, and he has to please them. he has to dance to their tunes. There is a video that is really much trending, and I believe this person is giving an explanation that Rwanda has been exploiting DRC for the longest time possible, even without our knowledge. Rwanda has been exploiting DRC long before what's happening right now. What's happening right now is an overflow of what has always been there. Just an overflow. The cup is still full, you know. The cup is still full. But I hope now you can grasp an understanding of what's really happening. My explanation is just not enough. You know, I highly encourage you to go to Wikipedia and read the whole thing. But I believe that human lives are all equal. There is no one which is more equal than the other. Yeah. This is EFK Original Documentaries. If you like what I do, you know what to do. Subscribe to the channel. I will surely appreciate. And see you in the next one, good people. Yeah. Remember to love Congo. Let's show some love.